Hello there, you're watching The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. Harsh and retrogressive. That's the verdict of the minority in Parliament as they kick against the dismissal of 8 students of Chena Senior High School in the Upper West region following derogatory statements they made against President Akufo-Addo.
The President, the headmaster, education office, and then our fellow Ghanaians. We are sorry for our videos that went viral. We didn't mean for it to go viral. It was a childish play. We are sorry and we are on our knees. Our education means a lot to us. It's our future.
The touching apology there will be engaging ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee, Peter Nochuko, to hear on the polls, plus get an official response from the Ghana Education Service. And later in the bulletin, we'll put a spotlight on Nigeria. Africa's most populous nation is scheduled to hold its general elections on February 25 this year. But given the widespread insecurity across the country, the Independent National Electoral Commission, there, INEC, is warning the exercise might be postponed or cancelled in many constituencies. We'll bring you the latest, plus get you the latest reports there from Nigeria. The poll, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities, Dignilu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. Don't forget that we're also live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. This is JoyNews, independent, fearless and credible journalism. Welcome to The Pulse. We're back shortly.
And I'm here with my colleagues on our knees to beg the President, the headmaster, education office, and then our fellow Ghanaians. We are sorry for our videos that went viral. We didn't mean for it to go viral. It was a childish play. We are sorry and we are on our knees. Our education means a lot to us. It's our future. We are on our knees that the President should please call us back. And we call on to the teachers to join with us to plead that the teachers should call us back.
And this afternoon, that's the touching and heart-piercing apology rendered by the 8 students dismissed or by the Chena Senior High School in the Katsina-Nankana West District of the Upper West region to the President, of course, asking the President to consider revising the sanction meted out against them by school management. The girls in a viral video last year made derogatory statements against President Akufo-Addo. The Ghana Education Service, in a statement earlier today, described their action as undesirable, hence their dismissal. So here are excerpts of what it is that the Ghana Education Service has to say about this. And for us to understand this, we understand that GES has put out a statement explaining that. So excerpts of it indicate that management of the Ghana Education Service has given approval for the dismissal of 8 students with immediate effect to serve as a deterrent to other students. Now, the situation is in reference to the derogatory comments made in that viral video, a conduct considered very undesirable and contrary to the acceptance and the standards of conduct generally required to any student in our education system of Ghana. Beyond that, the statement indicates that the students are requested to properly hand over any school property in their possession to the headmistress of the school before leaving. It is also expected that the students will use this as a major turning point in their lives to bring the desired change in their behaviors and attitude towards life. We wish them all the best in their future endeavor. But there are concerns the sanctions meted out to the girls are harsh, especially as they are very young. They have shown a deep sense of remorse. The minority in Parliament, for instance, sees the dismissal as retrogressive. Though they condemn the actions of the girls, they argue that every Ghanaian child deserves to be in school in accordance to the articles and stipulations within Article 25 of the 1992 Constitution. I'll be engaging the ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee, Peter Nochuko, shortly. But first, I want you to listen to some of the views on the streets of Accra and the concerns of some Ghanaians about the situation.
In such disrespect is not good at all. And also I'd like to plead on behalf of the kids to the GS that such punishment is too much. Though they deserve some punishment, but not as in dismissing the kids. Because since they are now being dismissed, at least no school would like to admit such case in their school. So I'll plead with the GS to find a different means of punishing those kids. And as our leaders always say, the young ones are our future generations. And now, these kids are being dismissed. No school for them again. And how are they going to be our future leaders? And also to help in the progression of the country. So I'm pleading with the GS to find different ways and means to give the kids some punishments.
The punishment is not good at all, because dismissing these children, maybe some can become armed robbers, and some some will fall into drugs and a lot of things. But at least you should even say that, oh, you people should go home 1 month time, then you will come back to school and learn. Because these people, the one that you sack, maybe they can be the president in future, we don't know. So then insultment, yeah, but I don't know some people the way they feel. But insultment don't move my body.
I think it's too harsh, because we are in a country where there is freedom of speech, okay? And if you are of age, you can make your expression known to the public. So I think it's too harsh. They should have actually cautioned them for them to think about what they said. But to dismiss them without any cautioning, I think it's just too harsh for the students.
Well, when it comes to being right, I think they are right, but the dismissal is too much. I think it's too much. When I believe if it comes to being suspended, I think that would be the right thing to me.
You as a student, you can talk to your teachers, find ways to measure how everything is going on in the country. Then you what you did, even as the social media saw it, you can be like, oh, this and this and this. How we listen to you insult the president, there could be the same way that we could also listen to you when you brought a best opinion. So what they did was right in a way, but it's not too harsh for me though.
Well, I personally, I think they are right, but the punishment is too harsh. Okay, if that is the extreme punishment for the case, I think they should amend it. But then the case, on the other hand, were very disrespectful, very disrespectful. Insulting a president is a low blow. They should go maybe some weeks or a month suspension. Come back with hard punishments inside, like reading or scrubbing the pantry bowls, like most of them did in SHS, yes.
Well, to me, as a Ghanaian, those students, they are also Ghanaian as we. So we first have to think about their future. Despite they've said something that is not right, we have, I believe we have others who can sit them down, correct them, but they shouldn't be punished that would destroy their life, because education is very important in our life. So I believe they should totally dismiss is not the right way.
Actually, it was bad for this type of case can even put the camera in front of their face and saying so many words to the government, which is bad. But also, the punishment is kind of very high, for such a student. If they can do something about this punishment, that would be good.
To my best of opinion, I feel the children shouldn't be sacked. Once they are students and they fall under the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, certain punishment can be given to them instead of them being sacked. Let's look at the future. Their education is at stake. They are kids, and with the education level, that is the only way they can survive in this country. So when you sack them and they go back home, think about it. What are they going to do? Okay, so if they don't turn out to be street children, they end up to the unemployment society, which is going to be very bad. Okay, so I feel certain punishment could be given to them for them to still stay back in school.
As for this punishment, for me, it is too much for them because they are too young.
The views on the streets of Accra. I want to bring in now Peter Nochu-Kutu, his ranking member in Parliament's Education Committee. That minority has issued a statement raising concerns with this latest happening. And I'm grateful, Honourable, that you're able to speak to us here on the poll. So exactly what are your concerns as the minority side of the House?
Yeah. Let me begin by saying that we condemn the behavior of the students of China SHS, and under no circumstance will the minority support that misconduct. Yeah, but going forward, we feel that the dismissal of the students from the school is a harsh decision. Harsh because these are young girls who need guidance and counseling. They have misconducted themselves, but they needed to be sat down and educated very well on good behavior and conduct. So we, as a minority, are of the view that there's a need to mitigate the punishment being given to them for various reasons. Now, if you dismiss these girls from school, where are they going? As somebody said, they may end up in the streets. And with frustration, they can go into even prostitution and any other thing.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, this is a disciplinary action. Why haven't you asked that question in other cases where we've seen students get dismissed simply because they breach school rules?
It's a disciplinary action, but the disciplinary action should not destroy the child. You see, we should not destroy the future of the child. Who knows what these children will become in the future? So let us guide them, counsel them, and make sure that they put up a good behavior. Dismissing them can deter others, but it's not a good punishment in this case. So if you look at the concluding paragraph of our statement, we say that this misconduct was towards the president. So we are calling on the president to pardon them as he had done before, because as children, we need to bring them up, educate them, and then guide them as to what to do. I understand the trauma they are going through now, and if much is not done about it immediately, frustration and other things will set in. More so when they are now in the final year, and very soon they will be writing their final examinations. So, as we know, punishment is to correct and not to destroy. So let us see how best we can punish them. Is it suspension or demonetization? Let's look at those options, and then that can serve as a deterrent to others. So we punish to correct and not to destroy.
Are you saying that dismissal is not part of the protocols for exacting punishments in the GES curriculum?
Dismissal should be the last resort where no other options are not available. You see,
right.
Look at what even happened at Legon last week, the suspension of students who were in the Commonwealth for the leadership. They were suspended. It's not dismissal, you see. So when you suspend a student for an offense, I think it is a corrective measure. So that is what the GES should have done. Suspend them, and then after some time, they come back to school. I think that will be a better option than dismissing these teenagers. What do you expect them to do? It will affect them for the rest of their lives, and that will not augur well for the country.
And it's not as though these school children have no other opportunity. They have alternatives all around the country, and they could reapply, get into school, get educated, and get the WASI certificate.
No, you see, once you are dismissed from the Ghana Education Service, I doubt if any government-assisted secondary school will admit them again. They'll have to go into a private school. And you see, this trauma will follow them wherever they go. But if they receive pardon, I think they will learn to conduct themselves very well. And they will rather become people who will carry message along that, hey, my people, my colleagues, don't do this, don't do that. And they will also become an agent of a change rather than we are doing to them now.
If the president fails to accept your plea, because you are pleading with the president to intervene, issue a presidential fiat, get the school children back into school. If he fails to do that, what would the minority do about this?
Oh, I know the president will not refuse our call. He's the father, he's the grandfather, and many people have insulted him even more than this before. So I am sure he will pardon them. He will not fail to listen to this humble call that we are making. But let me also add that there's the need to strengthen the guidance and counseling unit in our schools. I think if we strengthen them and they are able to carry out their activities and programs very well, we will get students or children who will not behave in this way. And then in addition, as parents, how we also speak before our children is very, very important. You know, a few years ago, somebody on radio who said that it is not an offense to insult the president. And these children have listened to us. So there's a need for us to be decorous in whatever we also say or do before our children, so that they don't learn bad things from us. So the president, I know, will listen, and that will bring the matter.
And is it not interesting that we don't have the minority in Parliament calling out the school authorities, the heads of the institutions, for instance? We see a clear case of students in possession of mobile devices, which is clearly not allowed in senior high schools, and we're not calling for heads to roll as well.
Oh, we have, I think it's a policy by the Ministry of Education that students at the senior high school should not have mobile phones with them. But they have not listened to the, I think parents are also to blame in their direction. If we all collaborate with the school heads, I think the government or the ministry's directive will be carried out. But going forward, that's why we say if there's a guidance and counseling unit well strengthened and they are up to the task, I think some of these misdemeanors will not occur in our schools. So there's a need to strengthen that unit so that they can counsel our students as soon as they enter the secondary schools.
And just on a lighter note, the belief is that these children have parents who belong to the NDC. A reason why they're picking up some of the insults lines from their parents who are against President Akufo-Addo. That's just on a lighter note. I don't know if you have any comments to make on that. A reason for which you're pleading for that. I
disagree with you because who knows? You see, as a father, I may have children who are not NDC.
Right.
Yes, so for the political consideration, it will not come in. But that's, as I said, as parents, we should be able to know when and how to talk about our leaders before our children. It's very, very important.
But you're saying that on authority. Are you sure you've not checked the party cards of the parents of these students?
I have not.
Just to be sure if they're not NDC, right?
I have not, and I am not interested in finding out.
Right.
Because it is the life of somebody who is at stake, and the future of the children. That is what is paramount. It is not whether they are NDC, MPP, or CTP.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we indeed have seen your call. We'll continue to be explaining that in the course of the day. But I'm grateful Peter Nochu Koto is ranking on Parliament's Education Committee. I want to bring in now Yao Poku Mensah, speaks for the Ministry of Education as well. And this is a shocking decision to some. The reactions have been mixed. Some believe that, yes, indeed, punitive measures, but this is high-handed. How do you respond to that?
Any way that you look at it, we never expected students to be putting out this behavior. We never anticipated that they could do that. So therefore, any punishment that is meted out to anybody in that direction becomes high-handed. And we should realize that within the space, as we define learning as a relative permanent change, the change that we are expecting is relative, and it should be seen within the confinement of our sociological progress. So therefore, anybody who puts up a behavior that is untoward, especially with regards to what we are seeing, definitely you are calling on authorities to strike. And when that strike comes, it should be deterrent enough to deter others from not repeating that same misgiving that you're giving out. And that is the fundamental aspect that we need to look at where the punishment is coming from. It will shock you just as it shocked me when I first saw the video. And I believe the first thing that you ask yourself, what kind of children are we breeding now? And before we could say Jack, and if we don't act now, definitely it will tilt or degenerate into others, and we wouldn't have that remedy to curtail that. So therefore, it is important that we didn't want it in this way, but we needed to strike and put an end to that and ensure that behaviors are desirable within education space.
Many are focused on the decision that you've just taken, but I'm also interested in what your investigations unraveled. Do we know the circumstance under which, for instance, the footage was taken? Because these are SHS students, they are not allowed to be in possession of mobile phones on campus. How did that happen?
Yeah, if you look at the investigation committee set out by the school and the outcome of the whole process and their recommendation, mind you, the recommendation to dismiss came within that aspect from the recommendation of the committee itself, affirmed by the governing board throughout to the district, region, to GS quarters and the council as well. You look at it and you get to realize how difficult the decision taken in this light would be. But we had no option than to give our punitive sanction to serve as deterrent to others. But the most important thing is that, as the ranking member said, socialization starts from the home. We have the core responsibility to ensure that we mold our words in a light that is well accepted within the cultural space.
But I'm asking my question. I'm asking my question on a basis. And the basis is because we don't know for a fact if these students were influenced, for instance, by an intruder who came onto campus to say, well, repeat after me, say these words, and I'll give you money in return or any favor in return. We're not sure of the circumstance under which this video was procured and subsequently placed on social media, obviously not by these students. So that's why I'm asking about the details. What circumstance led to this? Are we sure if indeed the mobile phone wasn't for the students?
Yeah, the investigation went into all this. The investigation went as far as establishing whether there was an influence in that, what motivated the student to engage in that or to do that. But the investigation again established that they did that on their own accord. I.e., what it means is that they were aware of whatever they were doing, and they accepted guilt, accepted an own up to the video that came out. So that is what the investigation went as far to dig out. And even why they were using mobile phones when they know it is against the rules of the school. So it's important that we do also avert our minds to what the committee's investigation unraveled. They have taken responsibility of their own action. We have affirmed that they did that without the influence of anybody. So if you own up to your own action, then definitely authorities will have to apply the sanctions as expected. And mind you, every SHS student, immediately you enter Form 1, you are taken through an orientation process conducted under the guidance and counseling unit of the school. Secondary schools do have a guidance and counseling unit with a head, and the heads are responsible for ensuring that they go through that orientation process where the do's and don'ts of the school, if you do this, the appropriate punishment which will be given out to you is spelled out clearly to them. And even in some schools, you go there, you hear the siren playing, what students are expected to do, what you can't do, and if you do this, the punishment that goes with the action that you take. So all these are in there. And even if you take their excerpt book, the do's and don'ts are still spelled at the back of the excerpt book with the appropriate punishment printed in the book. So we cannot say we are not aware or we didn't know the consequences of the action that we were taking.
And now,
definitely, they knew what they were doing.
Okay.
And we had no option than to apply the sanction as affected.
Now we're seeing another video, an apology to the president, first of all. And the president is also being invited, not just by these students, but by their parents, the public. And now we have the minority in parliament also asking the president to revise the decision. What are we likely to see GES do on this? At least some say suspension, deboardinize them. These are all options that are available to you. What will you do now?
You are telling me it hasn't come to our attention yet, but I believe authorities, as we look into the space, when it comes to our attention, definitely authorities will look at it and see how best we can remedy it. But I think as a parent, elderly people within the society, as we do have a certain culture that we need to maintain. And within that cultural space is where we have to operate so that we conform to societal norms and values. But if we go wayward, as we've seen now, then definitely we are inviting the striking stick to be used on us. And I think this should be a clarion call on all of us, especially students everywhere, that we need to take a clue from this, advise ourselves to desist from activities that wouldn't create a conducive atmosphere for teaching and learning. What is important is that you stay in the classroom and come out with a better learning outcomes that yourself and your parents will be proud of, but not to be engaging in some of these activities. And if you do that, you have no option than to apply the appropriate sanction, and that is what has happened. So
you're basically telling me, you're basically telling me that you're not going to accept the apology. You will not do anything about this.
No, I haven't said that. I said that you are telling me. I mean, when it comes to attention, authorities will look at all of what is happening within the space and take an action on that. And that doesn't lie within my purview. To tell you that this is what will happen on that, because I'm not part of management and I'm not part of council. So authorities in there, when it gets to their attention, definitely will take a decision on it.
What would you have done? And that should have been the question. If this was a different person,
what would I have done?
And by extension, the Ghana Education Service. If there was a different personality involved here, many believe because the president's name has been mentioned, the president is involved. That's why you are acting in such a high-handed manner. Well, these are some of the concerns that are coming through. It's not appropriate for an insult.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, but because the president is involved, that's why you're doing this.
Can you repeat the very words that the students used on the president?
I don't think that's friendly to TV right now.
Yes, because you can't repeat same. So it tells you the gravity of what we are discussing. And it tells you the net effect that probably may have on other students if we are not bold and firm on the decisions that we take. Mind you, we are looking at the spillover. The thousands of students who see this probably as a bold action and they want to take that same action. And then that wouldn't augur well for our society. So therefore, we take the action today to avert some like this occurring in the future. It has nothing to do with, the personality of the president is important. And within our criminal record, verbal abuse is criminal. How much more insulting the president in that light? So I think we shouldn't encourage taking the personality of the president out where we have students verbally abusing even their colleagues shouldn't be entertained. How much more insulting or abusing elders? That is what we need to instill in our students. That is what we need to instill in our young people for them to be responsible, own up to their activities, and ensure that they conform to societal rules, values, and norms that we do operate as Ghanaians.
Are you closing your doors to the parents? Is that what you're doing?
No. No, the Director General's door is open 24/7, and he keeps telling people that even his windows are open. We are open. We do cooperate with our stakeholders. Parents are major stakeholders. Anybody within the space are major stakeholders. And we are open for dialogue and cooperation. And definitely when the issues come, we look at the merit of it, we look at it, we sit and discuss it. What we are interested in is to ensure that we establish a conducive atmosphere for teaching and learning that gives us the learning outcome that is desirable, where we are proud of what we are doing. So therefore, anything that comes across that serves as a distortion or a distraction in achieving that feat, we wouldn't entertain it. We will ensure that we maintain the discipline, we ensure that we maintain the peace on our campuses, we ensure that all students have that level of freedom to learn in peace and do well in their academic achievements. That is what we stand for.
And I guess this is also, very finally, and I just want you to be brief on this, this is also reinforcing the conversation around the use of a mobile phone and electronic gadgets on campus. Will this further reinforce the need for some reforms in terms of, policy measures that the GES will be adopting in the coming days?
Yeah, exactly. It's a call on the table. We're looking at the code of conduct for students. Very soon, that will be announced or launched out for everybody to see. So, where if you cross the line, what the net effect will be. So, the conversation keeps going on, but still, we need to understand that within our public space, especially within our SHS, mobile phone usage is not part of the process, and therefore parents and students should be mindful of, especially when you have a gadget and you don't use it for learning. That wouldn't help anybody. So within the space, we are still regulating it, and when we can, definitely we will have that strong discussion on it.
Okay then. Well, we'll keep monitoring the space. This is not over, so definitely we'll reconnect afterwards. Yao Pokumensa, I'm grateful for your time here on The Pulse. And still ahead, we're looking at Ghanaian nurses. In recent years, Ghanaian nurses have been the target of many issues. They have a lot confronting them. And of course, you've seen the recent back and forth between doctors and nurses. We'll discuss all of that, the brain drain and other concerns emerging, including their base pay as well. We'll talk all about that and more right here on The Pulse, but we'll do that after this break. Please stay with us. And you're welcome back to The Pulse. In recent years, Ghanaian nurses have been the target of many Western nations who've designed programs and policies to deliberately attract them to work there. They find, nurses in Ghana to be highly trained, efficient, and don't have to be paid more than nurses trained in those countries as well. The attraction for our nurses have been, better life for themselves and their children. And in our quest to understand this situation, we're taking a look at the state of the Ghanaian nurse and the midwife as well. In studio with me now is President of the Union of Professional Nurses and Midwives Ghana, Maxwell Odroyeboah. We're having a conversation on this, and Max, it's a good time to be talking to you. Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you.
I hope the year is starting off well for you, the nurses. You're asking for more pay.
Yes.
But I hope it will come soon.
yes. We are hoping so. I think negotiations is still ongoing, so hopefully we are going to have more.
Let's talk about the condition of the Ghanaian nurse and the midwife as we speak today. How would you describe that?
Yeah, so for now, I would say it's not so bad, it's not so good either, because we want more, because we are doing relatively more, and we are even doing better than other health professionals or other health professionals outside the country. Yeah, so we obviously want better conditions of service, and we want more salaries as well.
But then we know of the unions asking for an increment in the base pay and the need to pay more. Why is there a need? Why do we need more motivation for these health professionals?
Yeah, so motivation is key in every job that one does. So without motivation, you would, not obviously give up your best. And so if we want the best out of these nurses, we want the best professionals to perform, then obviously we have to remunerate them better. And so they deserve better. And unfortunately for us, we have, just as you rightly said in the introduction, other countries who are paying much better. So if we don't really remunerate ourselves better, we're going to have a lot of the people leaving.
Also, that's happening already.
It's already happening.
A lot of nurses don't want to be in the country, so they take the certificates and move out.
Yes.
And what's even, attracting, the Western nations, those in Europe especially, for them to ask for Ghanaian nurses and for them to want our professionals to come and work there? Is it simply because it's cheap labor, or what else is there to it?
No, not at all. It's actually got nothing to do with cheap labor. Ghanaian nurses are really, really hardworking and very, very professional. If you go to our wards, despite the issues that we have with some patients and patient relatives, if you visit our wards, the sort of professionalism you'd see there from trained nurses is exceptional. And so when most of these people travel outside the country, their services are, superb. And so you have other countries there where you notice that most of the time they prefer the Ghanaian nurses to take care of them. There are certain patients, we have friends there who tell us that, for this particular patient, he says, I want a Ghanaian nurse.
I'm sure you're just not promoting the Ghanaian nurse, because, for instance, comparison has been made to the Ghanaian nurse here in Ghana and those in Togo, those in the UK and elsewhere. Where do we even stand, for instance, comparatively speaking?
Comparatively speaking, in fact, we are very high on the ladder. We are very high, because this is actually a fact. And so even if you go online, most of the times when they are giving the criteria for selecting, sometimes they say they want West African nurses, specifically Ghanaian nurses and midwives. It means we are doing something exceptional. And when the people are out there, they give up their best. When Ghanaians are out of the country, their services...
But why don't they have a lot of love at home? And you get to hear the refrain, this is a Ghanaian nurse. That some of the comments, the barrage of attacks that you come under, simply because the feeling is you don't treat our people well. Is that the fair description to put across?
No, not really. We actually put up our best in the wards as well. The only challenge I really see here is that we don't have enough of the resources that we really need to take care of the patient here. And obviously the motivation is not also there, because mostly everybody wants to be paid for the services he or she is rendering. So obviously if you are not being paid as you expect, the motivation goes down a bit. And then if you don't have the necessary gadgets, the necessary tools to work with, that can also affect, your performance. But we do our best in the wards and we give off our best. Fortunately, I am still working in the ward. I haven't moved out of the ward. I still go to work. And so I really know what I'm talking about.
In fact, that brings up the conversation about the alleged friction between doctors and nurses. Is that a reality, given what's happened, for instance, in the Ashanti region? You saw that backlash at the Mencha hospital, where, of course, many say that's just a tip of the iceberg, something really deep-seated within the medical space which needs urgent attention. Would you say that we're dealing with the root causes?
No, not necessarily. For me, as I already stated, I've worked in the world my entire life. I have refused to go to the classroom to teach. After my master's degree, I was asked to go and teach. I said, no, I'm staying in the ward. The ward, the patients also deserve the best. So we don't really have a lot of problems with the medical doctors. What we see is that we have exceptions in every case. Some nurses are slightly disrespectful. You have doctors that are disrespectful as well. So when that, those two people come together, obviously you're going to have that friction. But the majority of nurses and midwives work in harmony. And I have worked with different doctors, different nurses, and I can't remember any doctor who has actually had an issue with me. They respect me so much. I also give them the same respect, and we work as a team.
Okay. The year is starting. I asked how most of your members were doing, but clearly I'm not sure you would say it's a good story, because it started off late last year when we're seeing, of course, the back and forth in terms of the negotiations for the base pay. You've been up and down, in and out of the negotiation room, and yet we're not getting closer to having a full deal. What you've been part of the negotiations as well. What's that difficulty? The government says, for instance, the deputy, Labour Relations Minister indicating that he's fed up. I mean, he simply doesn't know what your concerns are. Government is giving you an option, and yet you won't vouch, you won't give in. What's the problem?
Yeah, so government is tabling one thing, organized labor is also tabling another. So that's why we keep telling them that it's a negotiation. So they don't expect us to just accept whatever they have brought and then we are happy with it. We don't also expect them to accept whatever we've brought, but we expect to have a compromise, something that is realistic. Just yesterday from JoyNews, inflation is about 54.1. Our salaries have remained same from last year. So obviously they need to also understand that conditions have changed. Prices of goods and services have changed. So if we don't change with time, obviously we are going to have this huge issue of brain drain coming again. And so they also have to be a little bit compromising and accept some of our terms. It's not that we are demanding so much, but they just have to be reasonable.
Do you have options on the table? We've heard from some other groups indicate to us that, look, if this doesn't go through by so and so date, we'll go ahead, we'll strike, we'll withdraw our services. What do you have on the table if the worst happens?
If the worst happens, we speak the language the government understands best. Fortunately, we are behind organized labor in all that they are doing. So whatever action they request of us, we're going to follow it, and we'll follow it to the latter. We just pray we don't get there, because we are not asking for so much from government.
There are concerns also about some other policy measures which you feel government needs to urgently address so as to cushion the nest some more. What are some of them? What's top on that agenda for you?
Yeah, so for us, we would table a lot of these things when we go into the negotiations for nurses and midwives, maybe later on after the base pay. But we are asking for a few things, maybe improved conditions of service such as extra duty allowance improvement. Maybe we would look to revise our base, our salaries. And then even the main things that we work with, especially our safeties in the hospitals. If some of these personal protective equipment and those things are not provided at the facilities, it goes a long way to affect our performance as well. So when we get to the negotiation specifically for nurses and midwives, we have a whole lot of things that will be presented to them.
And is government willing to negotiate on that score? Because already if the base pay is giving you a challenge, then you have a really long way to go.
Yeah, well, we hope that they would listen. I think one of the main things government is worried about currently is the numbers under organized labor and how much they would have to dole out if they increase to a certain percentage. But if you come to nurses and midwives, we are not so many. So we believe that the few things that we will table to government, he will be willing to, look into it for us.
Some argue that you don't have that full front, united front, if we may call it as such, in pushing through your demands. There's the GRNMA working on one side, and you have the Union of Professional Nurses and Midwives also working on another hand. I mean, what's the unique story to yours for which you are not willing to perhaps work together with them? Or what's the story of your side, which is the Union of Professional Nurses and Midwives? Do you have peculiar challenges?
Not really. We are actually, supposed to be collaborating with the GRNMA. The laws of the country even, force us to do so. The challenge here is that one union broke away from the other. The UPNMG came out of the GRNMA. So obviously you expect that friction to be between us. But that notwithstanding, in times past, we've been able to do one or two things together. Especially when it comes to negotiations. We have no option than to go along with them because they currently hold a collective bargaining certificate. So we are open to working with them. But obviously you understand once somebody comes out of another group, there's definitely going to be a friction. Initially, they probably felt the group was not going to survive. Okay. And so they could frustrate.
Okay, but your composition is still thriving?
Thriving. And in just about 3 years, we're taking about 1/3 to 2/3 of their membership. So it means people are really...
Is it sort of a competition or just a case of trying to get better welfare for the nursing fraternity?
Excellent question. So I've always insisted that it's not a competition between two groups, because ultimately we have somebody who is here and the wife is in another group. And so it's never going to be a competition. At the end of the day, the employer is the one that you're going to make the demand from. The main reason for the formation of UPNMG was probably just to better the condition of service and then provide different welfare policies for the nurse and midwives. And we've actually executed that perfectly. And that's one reason why we keep going. Because I said this to somebody and he was very surprised. Nurses and midwives work in the hospital. They have no insurance cover in the hospital.
As we speak.
As we speak. So when a nurse falls sick, he pays for every medicine, every drug he picks from the hospital.
No cover at all?
No cover. You pay for all the labs that you go to in your own facility. There's no free thing for you in your facility.
For how long have you been fighting this?
We've been talking about this, we've been battling this, and nobody seems to care.
Right.
So UPNMG decided that, okay, well, so we take matters into our own hands. We're going to provide an insurance policy for all our members at no cost to them, because we believe that's why they pay dues to the union, to be innovative, to provide for them, and to protect them when they need be. So that's exactly what we're doing. And these are some of the main policies we're bringing up that, causing the growth of our members.
And in fact, since we're on this subject of cushioning the nurse and trying to avoid brain drain, government announced a policy measure recently about training or exporting some nurses out of the country. You've taken notice of that. Have you been engaged as a group, and what professional advice did you give to government on that?
Thank you. So on the brain drain and the export of nurses, in fact, it's been one of our main policies when we started working. And I think from the beginning, around 2018, 2019, we engaged government, and we proposed to them that the export of nurses was going to bring in some foreign exchange that could help government. And we gave them our own proposal on the sort of, or the criteria they should use to select these nurses, because most of the foreign countries wanted our specialists and consultants, the experts. So we felt that, no, if we could have a proper staff mix in our hospitals, then you don't have to push all the professionals or the specialists out of the country. So we've had a few engagements with them, and then we're hoping that they would listen. As for the export, people are already going. In fact, just last month alone, from our data, we lost about 520 people who had vacated posts, and we obviously knew they were going outside the country. So they are going. How can the country leverage on their going and also get something back? And once the country is aware of how many people are going, obviously they will be able to make provision to employ more. As we speak, since 2019, we have trained nurses who are still in their house unemployed.
Right.
And we keep making a case for them, for government to consider employing them. So if the opportunity has come for some people to go, we believe that fine, let's push some.
Okay, so what you're advising now is that let's focus on those who are at home, those who have not been taken into the system, either take them into the system and let those serving currently in the hospitals be transferred abroad.
Not all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so if
to a
we
mix.
have a proper mix, because those who are staying home currently have completed, most of them, 1 year mandatory rotation, and some are still working in the hospitals. So they have the experience that these foreign agencies and foreign countries need. So if we can take some of them, mix with a few specialists and go. So we continue to maintain a proper staff mix at our facility, so that when I'm also sick, I go there, I know that I have the right people to take care of me. So for us, we don't have a problem. We think it's a good deal.
We're looking forward to the future. At least negotiations will continue. What's your hope and the hope of your members as you resume talks?
Yeah, so we are hoping government would be considerate.
60%?
60% would have been
amazing.
Yes,
but it's not looking likely.
Not looking likely. I think from yesterday they've brought it down a bit. We are also changing our position a bit. It's frustrating when negotiations, prolong for a while.
Right.
But we believe that it's in our interest, their interest and ours, because if we lay down our tools, it favors nobody. Yeah. So we believe that they would,
do some things. but your assurance to the general public as to wrap up on professionalism of the nurse and continuous service delivery at the highest standard. We need that from our nurses, don't we?
Yes, we do. And the nurses are poised, to perform. If we get the right tools, we get the right motivation, and we get the right union backing as well. So at UPNMG, we believe in improving the professional practice of nurses and midwives. So we have CPD trainings we organize for them. We have scholarship scheme for members who want to, further their education. And then we have the protections for them. We have loan schemes for them. Those who want to go to school who need money and so on and so forth. So we believe that, we are going to improve professionalism, and the union has a great role to play.
Well, the future is looking bright. We can only wish you the best. Thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. That's Maxwell Odroyeboah. He's president of the Union of Professional Nurses and Midwives. But this afternoon as well, the special prosecutor, Kisi Echabing, has been accused of deploying tricks at delaying court processes. This accusation is coming from lawyers for the former secretary of the defunct Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Charles Bissiou. Mr. Bissiou, who was filmed in the investigative documentary allegedly receiving bribes, is in court seeking to stop the special prosecutor from prosecuting him. He contends he was exonerated of the accusation by the police and cannot be investigated again by the special prosecutor. Court correspondent Joseph Akable was in court today, now reports.
Lawyers for the Office of Special Prosecutor have filed documents indicating a conditional appearance. Now, this means that they have some protests that they intend to register about the process that have been filed by lawyers for Charles Bissiou, and that they did indicate to the court that they will be making arguments urging the courts to dismiss this particular matter because of the concerns that they have. There was also the presence of a lawyer who represented Tiger Eye Private Investigation, the firm that carried out the investigations, as well as lawyers for the journalist Anas Arimio Anas. Now, those two entities have also indicated that they've not been served with the documents that have been filed, and so the court did indicate that it's going to adjourn the matter for all those documents to be filed. But lawyers for Mr. Bissiou, led by Nanaje Bafuewa, had some concerns, and that was to the effect that they were hoping that the process that have been filed by the special prosecutor specifically were not a case of playing tricks or engaging in some malice of sort, all geared at delaying the process that had been filed, specifically the injunction, the one asking the courts to restrain the special prosecutor from investigating and prosecuting Charles Bissiou. And so the court did indicate, and two comments from the Office of the Special Prosecutor, where the legal practitioner did indicate that they will argue forcefully and lead evidence where relevant to show that this is a matter that should be dismissed and that the special prosecutor should be allowed to carry out its investigation and prosecution of Charles Bissiou. The matter is back in court on February 6, 2023. For JoyNews from the Law Courts Complex, my name is Joseph Akable.
And in most mini buses, often referred to as trotro here in Ghana, the traditional method of communication between a bus conductor and a driver has been to tap the vehicle. But the clank sound produced from the beating of the conductor's palm against the vehicle door does not only irritate a number of passengers, but also presents some health threats. In this daily search of a decent job using public transport, Emmanuel Odrum, an unemployed graduate, was challenged to develop the traffic technology. The prototype is aimed at improving communication between a minibus driver and his conductor using a lighting system. There's more in the following report.
Well, you probably may have heard this very sound in any minibus known locally here in Ghana as trotro. This very sound is no ordinary sound, but a conventional communication between a driver and his bus conductor known as the mate, as they offload and unload passengers on their way. The sound is produced from tapping one's palm on the metallic gate of a minibus. Although the clank sound is to the passengers' benefit, some passengers argue its intensity appears somewhat irritating and a health threat.
Me, for instance, I've been always complaining about what, even this morning, I was in a car coming from Aputoja to Atonsu, and the way the mate ate the car, I was beside him. I was shocked. So I told that guy that, in fact, they should stop doing that, because if they keep on doing that, it's going to create something unusual to anybody with having a problem with blood pressure or whatnot.
We got some that day to cry. Every cry, we okay, but only yes, I did. If I did it, and you boom, bang, 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 bang. A do cry, also be before, and snow beyond the flu. Too much.
Mates should learn to talk than hitting hard on the gate. It's sometimes annoying.
But are there any effects to the bus conductor constantly seeing banging hard on the gates?
For the effects, looking at your palm, I mean, you feel pain, but it wouldn't last longer because it's not like something that you'll be doing consistently. Yeah, so the pain is there, all right, but it's not a consistent thing.
I get blisters in my palm. Because of the pains, I sometimes skip work. We, the drivers, are sometimes surprised at how they hit the gate. It is sometimes unnecessary. Sometimes, some mates hit so hard on the gate for the car to stop, but nobody joins. It's a waste of time for most passengers.
The mate wants to tell the driver that let's stop, someone wants to alight.
An unemployed graduate is changing the narrative.
I'm Emmanuel Odum from Mumford, also known as Jama in the Gumor West District of Central Region. I completed University of Ghana Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in the year 2012, and I continue to have my national service in Tamale, specifically in Yankpala in the Tolon District. Afterwards, I continued to have my master's in animal science at the University for Development Studies. I completed last year, 2021, November. I was part of NAPCO. Due to the challenges of payment, I couldn't be sustained. So I had to travel down to Kumasi looking for greener pastures. They take action based on what is being told to them. Thank you.
In his daily struggles for a job in Ghana's second largest city, Kumasi, Emmanuel was struck to develop the traffic lights, a coinage from trotro and traffic.
I was inspired when I began using the trotro over many years after I've moved from Tamale to Kumasi, and through my job search from Kumasi, anytime that I am going for application and I sit in vehicle, I got the experience that trotro mates and drivers went through.
Traffic is a light signaling tool which uses switches and 3 different colored bulb system to improve driver-conductor communications.
We have the power source. This is a somewhat 2 of them which provide 3 volts to supply the lights. So, or we can also use the USB side which can be connected to the vehicle if the vehicle has USB side, or there can still be a direct connection from the traffic to the vehicle electrical system, so that it will be able to provide energy to the signal tool.
As a pressing need facing most Ghanaian developers and entrepreneurs, Emmanuel is hoping to advance his technology, but he is disadvantaged by the lack of financial support. For JoyNews, Emmanuel Bright Kweku reporting.
And the tool is made up of
And it's time now. You're welcome back. The Afakpe Protective Mountain is the only tourist site in the entire Central Tong district. This family of mountains won wars for the Tong people in the pre-colonial era, but now the place yearns for recognition as the chief and people of Afakpe Dome appeal for the place to be developed and added to Ghana's rich tourism base. Enjoying Prime's latest documentary, Emmanuel Jiveno peels layers of the breathtaking site of the Afakpe Protective Mountains to you. Here are excerpts.
They are regarded as a family of mountains. Father Mountain, Mother Mountain, Daughter Mountain, and a host of other unnamed rocky hills forming the Afakpe Protective Mountains.
This mountain initially is used as a sacred area, a fetish ground. In the olden days, our great-great-grandfathers used the place as a war ground. So literally, the name Afakpe means war stone. They mounted guard to look for enemies, and they put their children and wives at the top of the mountain. As you can see, the tallest one around us. And they go to attack enemies when they come closer. We have different war stones. One is called Mama, so it's called Mama Afakpe. The husband is called Togbi Afakpe. The only daughter they have is called Vi, meaning first daughter. Then we have other small gods around.
Welcome to the Afakpe Protective Mountains, located at Mafi Afakpe Dome in the Central Tong district of the Volta region. The view from the mountain is a sight to die for. No wonder many musicians choose it as a setting to film music videos. But the Afakpe Mountains carry many stories, and I'll peel layers of this beautiful story to you. After defeating their enemies in the pre-colonial era, the people of Afakpe Dome gathered here to celebrate and also drown their sorrows. This mountain continues to play an important role in the socio-economic lives of the locals here, serving a variety of purposes, ranging from spiritual to agriculture, health, and recreation.
The whole place is a fetish ground, but tradition is dynamic. As time goes on, our youth decided to use the place as an entertainment ground. Around that time, every Easter Monday, you see the youth coming here, the drum, that is traditional drumming, dance, merrymaking goes on here. So it became a usual practice. Since then, other people heard of it in Afakpe surroundings. That's Mafi, traditional area. For that matter, Tong as a whole, people started coming in. The number increased to cover Volta region. Majority of people from Aflau, Denu, Pando area, they all travel down. It's a 24-hour program.
watch the full documentary as it airs tomorrow at 5 p.m. We'll get you details. And it's time now for Connect Africa. Today, we'll put a spotlight on Nigeria. Africa's most populous nation is scheduled to hold its general elections on February 25 this year. But given the widespread insecurity across the country, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is warning that the democratic exercise might be postponed or cancelled in many constituencies in the West African nation. After a crunch meeting on the matter, Nigeria's Inter-Party Council is urging the federal government of the country to deal with the threat in order to ensure the conduct of a peaceful election. For more on this, I want us to get to Ikemese Effiong, who's the head of research for the SBM Intelligence. Thank you for your time here on The Pulse. So let's get to it. We understand that a crunch meeting was held amongst the political parties, and their call to the federal government is for them to ensure security ahead of the elections. How feasible is that, looking at the situation in Nigeria? You'd have to unmute so I can hear you. I'm having some challenges hearing you. If you could just kindly unmute so we can hear you then. If you're with me, I'm just asking if you can hear me. Okay, well, Ikemese Effiong is the head of research at SBM Intelligence. Let's try one more to see if the connections will be right now. I was just asking about the security situation prevalent in Nigeria as we speak, and if indeed the insistence by the political parties to have the election come February is something which is feasible. What's your take on that? What's your take on that? Hello, are you with us? You'd have to unmute so we can hear you, sir. Well, it appears that we're having some challenges connecting to Nigeria. We'll definitely get some updates for you here on Connect Africa. We're just trying to hear from Ikemese Effiong, who's the head of research at SBM Intelligence. This is The Pulse. When we return, we'll get back to Nigeria and get the latest on what's happening there. Let's take you back to Nigeria, where there are concerns that the elections may have to be postponed or either cancelled because of security concerns. Ikemese Effiong is head of research at SBM Intelligence in Nigeria. Thank you for your time. I was just asking earlier about the crunch meeting that was held amongst all political parties there, the insistence by the Inter-Party Advisory Council to the federal government, asking them to ensure that there is a peaceful conduct of the elections. But how feasible will that be given the precarious situation of security in Nigeria? If you can hear me, I'm just asking, we're having some difficulties again hearing you. I'm just asking how feasible it is to conduct the elections in this crucial time. Quite unfortunate that we're still having this challenge, but of course the latest is that the parties have written to the federal government on this. We'll try and get you some details on that, plus get you more from Nigeria, but that's not happening right now. For now, though, you're still with us on the JoyNews channel. This is The Pulse, and the General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Fiavikwete, has been speaking. The NDC's chief scribe has admonished people of the Volta region to identify his party as a religion. He indicated that they must get accustomed to the opposition party, own it and believe in the NDC, irrespective of its performance in government and contribution to the development of the region. He was speaking at the opening ceremony of a 4-day retreat for Volta Regional NDC executives in Joje in the Ketu North constituency.
The National Democratic Congress recorded a drop of 2.9% in the 2020 presidential votes and lost the Hohwe seat to the New Patriotic Party, which saw an increase of 3.3% in presidential votes in the Volta region. To change this narrative, NDC regional executives converged at Joje at a retreat to analyze the past performance, re-strategize and develop a plan towards the 2024 general elections. The Volta Regional NDC Secretary, James Gunu, partly attributed the 2020 performance to apathy and lack of voter knowledge. The General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Fiavi Kwete, lamented that support for the NDC has been dwindling in the Volta region.
Now, I believe if we knew who we were, the situation where the love of this party will start dwindling even in this region should not happen. Because if you watch what happens in Ashanti region and even in Eastern region, you notice that no matter how poor MPP may be, no matter how bad MPP may be governing, no matter even how bad MPP may neglect those regions, they understand that their party was MPP and nothing changes now. Because somehow they appreciate that why are we going to ever forsake our party? Because this must become like a religion. Your religion may not be the best religion, but that is your religion. It's your responsibility to make sure you fix it, you change it, you bring changes within that religion. Somehow MPP makes it look as if it's wrong for us, Volta people, to take the NDC as a religion. There's nothing shameful about it. You go to America today, if you go to New York State, the Democratic Party is like a religion. Through rain or shine, that remains their party. You go to California, the same. You go to places where the Republicans are, it is the same. There's nothing wrong about it. You talk to some of our young people from Volta, they think it's something of pride to say, yeah, as for us, we are not like our fathers and uncles. We believe that we should not continue anything. They think it's something of pride. There's nothing wrong holding to the foundations that are the clear foundations that have built our country.
The Volta Regional NDC chairman, Mauto Agbavito, emphasized the need for a strategic direction and effective party management to increase the party's electoral fortunes. A master plan to increase voting pattern in the Volta region in the 2024 general elections would be produced at the end of the retreat. Fred Kwame Asari, JoyNews, Joje.
Well, the report there from the Volta region, the retreat there by the NDC leadership. But first, even before we head into our next conversation, I just want to try one more time. Let's get the latest from Nigeria. Ikemwese Tefyong is the head of research at SBM Intelligence in Nigeria, where there are reports their election may have to be put on hold or either cancelled due to security concerns. What's the final decision from the EC on this?
So it appears as though the consensus, and thanks for having me on your program once again, and apologies for the audio connectivity issues. The final consensus is that the elections will go on. Billions of naira have obviously been sunk into ensuring that a successful electoral exercise carried out here in Nigeria. Security was always going to be a concern because of all of the elevated security challenges that are going on in the country. Every region of Nigeria, we call them geopolitical zones here, is impacted by major security challenges, whether it's the insurgency in the northeast and the northwest, or kidnaps for ransoms, as well as low-level forms of more ordinary forms of criminality right across the country, to to a low-grade militancy situation that's going on in the Niger Delta, as well as separatist agitations in the southeast. So there are security challenges to go around all across the country, right? But up until now, planning has pressed ahead, right, towards hosting national elections. And it was noting that in 2019, as well as in 2015, national elections held in Nigeria, despite the, obviously less than favorable security conditions that existed at the time. So it appears as though INEC and the security agencies are really plowing as much political will and heft as well as resources into this. INEC has already applied for a supplementary budget from the National Assembly, and the security agencies appear to have gotten more funding in this year's budget to ensure that they are able to deploy extra security, extra foot soldiers, boots on the ground, as well as equipment to ensure that the exercise would mostly happen right across the country. But this week's admission by INEC that some of that may not be enough obviously raises important questions about whether this exercise shouldn't have been postponed well before now. National elections occur in about 7 weeks right from now. So it's a pretty murky and dicey picture in the country. But I suppose planning will continue, and the strategy will be to wait and see and hope that there is an improvement in the overall security situation close enough to the elections that it's feasible for the exercise to be carried out without the need for other postponement.
And what's been the reaction from the general public?
So from the general public, obviously there is a lot of concern. Many people have planned, right? Not just business schedules as well as investment decisions with the mindset that elections will happen in late February and early March. But you also have a lot of Nigerians, for example, who are in the diaspora who are planning to come back home to vote. And obviously, this has been a very competitive election season, right? The president is not up for re-election. He's term limited, right? So there's no incumbent in this race. The political party is, according to opinion polls, in one of the most unpopular positions, as well as one of the weakest positions that the ruling party has been heading into the elections. And the opposition has been galvanized by the presence of a third-party candidate, right, whose ascendancy and whose popularity continues to increase by the day. So there's a lot of emotional as well as physical investments that have been made by a cross-section of Nigerians into this particular election cycle, and the postponement will end a lot of plans. And so generally, INEC announcement that the elections is likely to, the elections might be postponed under certain circumstances, was obviously not greeted with applause.
Okay then, Ikemesete Fiong, Head of Research at SBM Intelligence, grateful. The conversation is just starting. We'll reconnect when the elections draw closer. I'm grateful for your time here on The Pulse. Let's take you now to, back into the country, to a constituency in the Western North region of Ghana. I'm talking about the Ibebini Amiazu Bekwai constituency. There are challenges with roads, chieftaincy disputes, galamsey, and other social issues. The MP for the area, Alfred Obeng Boateng, is joining us. He is also a member of Parliament's Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. Alfred Obeng Boateng is our guest here on The Pulse. Good afternoon, sir. And
good afternoon, my brother.
Happy New Year.
Yeah,
it's good to see you.
Many happy returns.
I'm sure that you've been with your constituents over the Yuletide, and so you are able to assess what the status of the economy is. Are they doing well?
Yes. Of course, As you all know, things are not, we are not in normal
times,
so we are not getting it as it used to be and as is expecting. But gradually, we are improving.
Right.
And I think, I went there 22nd, 23rd. I left there on the 8th of January. So I spent quite a number of days there to interact with them.
Yeah, and we know that one of your concerns, the headache there, is about the routes. So let's start off with the routes. What's really your concern about the network connecting the entire constituency?
Entire constituency? Yes. We have problems with the roads, but apparently the problems that we are having now is about the contractors going back to site to work. Other than that, I must say about 80% to 90% of our roads have been awarded to contractors already.
Okay.
And if they're able to execute, I can say that Bibiani Ahianso quite constituency will have the best roads in the country. So, nonetheless, as MP, I've also been trying my best to reshape, re-gravel, sectional roads as we wait for the contractors to do the bituminous surfacing, which is what you are expecting.
Precisely.
Yeah, so temporary
measures, right?
Temporary measures have been taken to consideration to make the roads more travelable, but it comes at huge cost.
Definitely, and partly the reason why people feel this is not working out is because maybe you don't even have a DC at post, or an MC, if we could describe him at post, to coordinate that action between yourself as the MP and then also coordinating the exact work or implementation on the ground. Unfortunately, your area has been without an MC for some time now, correct?
For some time.
Yeah.
Yes. If as a matter of fact, our problem is not even the absence of the MC.
Right.
But I must say that our problem had been the appointment of an MC who was not, let's say, cooperating. I came into office in 2021, and a new MC was appointed. I was expecting that I could get somebody who could, work with me, who could share my vision, so that we could make our constituency attractive, our party attractive. But unfortunately, the MC who was appointed happened to be the one who was brought by the former member of parliament.
Okay. So you were not having the necessary cooperation.
The one that I unseated. So I must say that 2 years now, the assembly had virtually done nothing. So 2021, I had to, as a member of parliament, that we don't control any resources. I had to organize machines, bought fuel myself. Fuel alone, I bought about 165,000 Ghana cedis fuel to reshape, re-gravel some sections of the road to make the roads more travelable. So, and this had been going on, Unfortunately for us as a constituency, we lost our MC about 6 months ago. Now we are about to replace him, and that is where the issue that you are hearing, is coming from.
I'm sure you've heard the reports yourself. Some reports out there that you were, gathering a lot of youth to also go on rampage, demonstrate, and you've seen some of the media reports as well about yourself.
Well, I think that they have the media or the individuals behind those reports. They have misconstrued exactly what I said. I granted an interview in the constituency on one of the local radio stations, Stylish Radio, and I said that we were going to, we're going to have a press conference, but perhaps the number of people that are invited is huge, so people misconstrue the press conference to be demonstration and the demonstration against my government and my party, but that is not the case. The press conference was to, make the authorities, to make them aware of the reality in the constituency. And the reality basically is that there is a faction there. The one I unseated, he has his
own
guys in the constituency who are still antagonizing me. And if they choose the MCE from that group, they are now going to have another source of power. Are you getting me? To frustrate me, to antagonize me. And the effort, the resources that I will spend in fighting them, it will not be to the benefit of the party.
What's your biggest fear? I mean, going into an electoral season, 2024 is just around the corner. Do you have fears that the party unity may not be there going into the next elections?
Well, that is not, a bother to me. To me, my fear is that government will not appoint somebody who will use government resources to fight me. Are you getting me? Because I am a member of parliament on the ticket of the ruling government. So the MC that will be appointed should be somebody who will work with me.
Closely with you.
Closely with me.
You have leadership in parliament. You also have some, by virtue of your background, you have access to those in higher places as well. Have you tried raising your concern, putting your concerns before the leadership and some elders of the party, just to try and intervene and deal with these concerns that you have?
Yes. I think for now, after my interview on the local radio station, and then the attempted press conference with that huge number, General Secretary, had invited me. And I will attend to the invitation tomorrow to find a way. And again.
So you've been invited. Is it the case that your party feels you are, inciting people against the government appointee? Is that the feeling?
No. They haven't even made the appointment.
You
get me? They're about to make, and it is not in the interest of the party to, appoint somebody who will antagonize the sitting member of parliament. And then I know that I'll win the primaries if anybody is going to contest me. So obviously, I will be the party's candidate for 2024. So I need, unity in the constituency. I need MCE who will work closely with me for us to increase our fortunes in the constituency. Are you getting me? Yes. So that is all that my interview was about.
How about the feeling that even the individual you suspect may be appointed? Well, the president may even look at the situation and say, well, that's not the one I'm settling on, even in the first place. Or you're setting that he's the one going to be appointed.
Oh, yes. Before a member of parliament will come out strongly and then, plead with the appointing authorities that they should have a second look at
an appointee,
the one
nominee,
the nominee or the one they are going to do this. It means that I have, I've
done your checks,
done my checks, and then I know that with that person or whoever will be, not even just one person, but if anybody is appointed, and you get to know, if a name is submitted by the one I unseated, all right, and that person is appointed, you know, blacks as we are, obviously he's going to do his master's bid. Let's sabotage the sitting member of parliament so that my boss can have chance to come back. Are you getting me? And when they are doing that, then it's affecting the party.
Are you not mindful of his competence? Is that in doubt?
Competence?
Of the nominee?
The nominee?
Yeah.
Oh, no. As for the competence, I think we have equally competent people in the constituency.
But if he's competent, why not give him the job?
The problem is that we have experience. Like I said, that 2 years, the assembly had done that.
Right.
2 years. And the reason is that they appointed somebody.
There's a friction.
Who has an agenda to come and sabotage the MP. You see, and they executed it. So 2 years, the common fund that they receive, what have they used it for? All these questions, but I don't want to go there for now. All that I am pleading for is that they should consult me, or they should take my view, my opinion about who should be appointed. It is not constitutional mandate. This
is about engagement.
The best practices.
But are you sure you have majority of the grassroots in the constituency solidly behind you on this agenda that you're on?
Precisely. Everybody who wishes the constituency well support this cause. You know, this is something that everybody will understand, that this is a member of parliament who has done a lot for the constituency, a very popular person who increased the party's vote in the constituency. I mean, something over, let's say, about 500%. So if this person is given the opportunity, he can do a lot for the party. You get me? So even NDC, apart from the extreme people who may think of their party, because the development, when we have development in the constituency, everybody benefits. NDC benefits, CP benefits. So apart from a few people who may be thinking of their party, so as for them, they wish that this situation should remain, MC antagonizing MP so that they can take the seats. Apart from that, everybody in the constituency supports my call.
Right.
Everybody.
We need to go. What will be your appeal? And I'm sure that there are those who are listening to us from higher places, and obviously you'd be going into that meeting with the General Secretary. What will be that message that you'd want to send across to our viewers and to other stakeholders of the party?
To the viewers and listeners, perhaps some of them might have read
some articles,
the publications. I think that what is those publications are misleading. I think they have twisted the story, or they have misconstrued what I said. But basically, what I said is that I was going to have a press conference, but because I'm not the only person who support that call. So I invited all my constituents that they should come and sit, or they should come around to the park, so that the appointing authorities will know that this is the plea from the people of Bibiania Hyansobekwai, that the authorities should appoint MC who will work with the member of parliament for development to flow in the constituency. So as member of parliament, if I'm able to bring a few things through my MP's common fund and personal resources, the assembly is also doing the central government project. When we put them together, then we can say that the people are going to enjoy. So, and then I also, plead with General Secretary and his people who will be meeting me tomorrow, that as we're about to meet, they should, or at the meeting, they should also, carry the message to the appointed authorities and convince them that what the Member of Parliament is saying will help the party, help the government, help the people in Guinea.
I guess all you want to do is to break the 8. Let's see if that will work in 2024. Well, you're very confident about that. So that's the MP for Vianney, Alfred Boateng, joining us here on the polls. But it's time now for us to wrap up. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates on our stories there for you. I'm Blessed Sogah. We'll see you tomorrow.